I'm Karen, and this is Ian here with you for the Leasing Highway and our first episode with a guest. We're so excited.
Yes, super excited to be back here and for our second episode for the Leasing Highway, where we're really dedicating this entire series to the frontline workers of the multifamily industry and space, and have really are doing this to get amazing perspectives from all throughout different positions within the multifamily industry. And today I have an amazing guest in Tracie Leonard with Learner, and she's the managing director of property management for Learner. So has some incredible experience, and Karen and I both have had the opportunity to work with Tracie many times over the last few years, and very excited to talk with her. So Tracie, I'll pass it over to you to give a quick introduction about yourself and history here.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. As for those of you watching, this was unexpected. I'm very excited to be here. I have been in property management for close to 30 years. Hard to believe. So I do have a lot of experience, and I've worked with some wonderful people. And I think this is a great platform for those in property management to, as Karen had said in our first episode, to keep it real, authentic, honest, and I would add fun.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, one of the questions that we were going to start off with that's really on everyone's mind, and a question that's been tossed out a bunch is just looking over the last year and how COVID's impacted this industry, has had a huge impact in changing how we operate. And a lot of people have said there's actually no doubt that technology, especially in the industry, has moved up incredibly fast because of this event. And through that, there's some of that's here to stay, and some of it that has been positive, and some of it that will go away. And really just curious for your perspective on how COVID's changed the industry, and what's been positive and negative with it, and your perspective there.
So that question is so important, and it has impacted everyone in the business and other businesses. But for us in property management, as we've talked about before, our most important role is the care of the residents and working with prospects to find their next home. So what I think are the positives, let's start with the positives, is technology was there. It wasn't used to its fullest. So we were given the opportunity in a very unique way to implement and execute some of the technology that was available. And along with that came an opportunity to really customize and personalize the leasing experience for the prospects or the customers looking for an apartment. So all of a sudden, they could look at the apartment, visit the community the way they wanted to. So all of a sudden, you have a prospect who can make an appointment, come and take a tour of the apartment on their own while interacting with a leasing professional and get their answers. And I think that's phenomenal. And so that is one of the real benefits. You also have virtual tours. And when I mean virtual, I'm referring more to a Zoom tour. So like this, I take you on a tour of the apartment with some type of video conferencing available. So now if you don't want to come to the property, but you want to have a one-on-one experience, we've offered that. And then we move back to some VIP guided tours. So I really love it that now we have these options for our customers that we didn't implement or use before.
Yeah, Tracie, on that, all these benefits and the acceleration of technology, you hear a lot of people, and Ian and I mentioned last week too, that there's a number of people in the industry that feel like leasing agents will be obsolete. And that's, for us, coming from the trenches, and I know you too, starting out on the leasing floor, what's your perspective on that? And really how do we continue to connect the people portion with that out there as a possibility?
I think technology is a tool for connection. And I don't think that someone who's looking for their next home is going to want a totally, let's call it artificial intelligence that assists them with their new home. I think that there will always be a need for a personal connection, from a leasing professional. I think what it can mean is that all of a sudden we can be available outside of the traditional business hours. So maybe it's not your 9 to 5 leasing consultant. Now we have options that we can do virtual tours anytime, or we can communicate anytime. So I don't see it as making a leasing professional role obsolete, but it can make it, it can give us unique opportunities to connect, because this is one of the most important decisions of someone's life, right? It's one of the top 5 most stressful things they can do in their life is moving. So this is not a small, it's not a small job. It's a huge job. We play a very important role. So, I would be interested to, like poll residents out there and ask them, would you have leased your apartment without, without personal interaction? Yes or no?
Right. And I think people continue to evolve too, based off of what their previous experiences are as well. Right. And in addition to that, when each company decides how they're going to deliver those experiences, that's part of our competitive advantage. I mean, it's why you have Neiman Marcus and their service delivery and Nordstrom versus a JCPenney, right? Like everybody has their niche and it's all okay. And it's all delivered well. Ian, I mean, I think about when we first started traveling in the silver car example, right? Of going peopleless, but then feeding people back in to it too.
Absolutely. I think, one of my favorite quotes is really that technology is best when it brings people together. And I think that, prior to COVID, there was a lot of technology attention and focused and directed on replacing people, on how are we going to eliminate, whether it's a leasing agent or accountant, or, how do we bring in technology to lower that payroll cost. And I think what we've seen at the start of COVID, I mean, right away you saw how important it was to have technology in place to help bring people together and the value of that connection. And I think, a piece that we've really, you've pointed out here, Tracie, with, whether it be just a Zoom meeting or virtual tour, it's how do we enhance that experience while still maintaining that rapport and connection with the on-site team? Because when people are buying their apartment and renting this apartment, they're not just buying a roof over their head. They're buying that service team. They're buying that community, everything that's involved in that. And I think the more we see technology really playing a role in this, especially through COVID, has been that ability to create that connection during the times when prospects want it. And like you said, also, Tracie, in the way that they want it, and how to facilitate that. Right.
So has anybody seen Sweet Home Alabama? Because I feel a little bit like this could be one of our moments where Reese Witherspoon walks into the bank and she says, "Oh my goodness, you don't have an ATM machine." And the gal behind the teller, she says, "Oh no. The boss, he doesn't want to put that in for sake that we might lose connection with the customer." And ever since I saw that, I think about our industry. And, I used to love that people would come into the leasing office to pick up their package. That was a unique opportunity for me to say, "Tracie, wonderful. How's everything in your apartment home?" And now we've got these wonderfully efficient vendors who provide package lockers, right? And but I don't have that moment of connectivity with the customer. So I do think it's fascinating to think how it will evolve, and then how with that evolution we'll continue to create those connectivity points and just how we continue to connect through this and beyond this, right, Tracie?
Right. I mean, I have to give a shout out to our site teams here when they introduced, let's talk about the technology to pay your rent online, right?
Right.
When they introduced it as a preferred payment method, they set up the iPads in their offices and had residents come in who didn't use an iPad and basically provided instruction. So I think that there are opportunities not just to use it, but to introduce it to residents and prospects that don't use it on a regular basis, and be that friend, right? Introduce a friendly way to help them use their technology so they're not intimidated, and then they will take advantage of it. So I think we have some responsibility in that, because some of us are very comfortable with it, and frankly, others, they're going to hesitate.
Yeah, I still believe strongly that our teams, no matter how they're maybe repurposed in their interaction points, are the brand personality of our communities. And they are so critical and so crucial. And what you just said, Tracie, about being innovative really in how you deliver technology solutions and how you remember that people connectivity point is so important. So I'll stop there and we'll jump into our first break. And then when we come back, we've got more questions for Tracie. So we'll be right back.
The Open Road Network was created to give the amateur podcaster a voice in a very noisy and complicated world. The goal of the network is to motivate, it's to inspire, it's to challenge, it's to entertain our viewers as well as our hosts. The Open Road Network is an idea where we get away from that professional $1 million voices that are out there and start listening to the people who are everyday Americans who want to have a voice and want to be able to make an impact. So tune in every single day here on the Open Road Network as we are continuing to introduce new shows that are aimed to motivate, inspire, challenge, and entertain.
What I love about that little segment is it says, Jonathan talks about everyday Americans. And that's kind of what I feel like we're doing here too, is just, look, no one has it all figured out, right? So just getting to dialogue with you, Tracie, thank you so much for this time and just, bouncing these ideas around. And one of the things, and it kind of ties back into, how we've handled this last year, but just in trying to move beyond that, what are some of the greatest opportunities that you see for our industry in these next, 1, 2, 3, and 5 years, really even?
Wow. I think that's a big question. I think the greatest opportunity is to, again, utilize the technology we have and make sure that we stay connected to our customer. But also, I think what experiencing the COVID has taught us is that home is important, right? People spent more times in their homes in the last year than I think they have in years, right? Whether it was going to school, going to the office to work, going to attend social functions. So with all of these things, changing your mindset, how we gather, how many people we gather, that we have an opportunity to step back, look at the product. What do we have today? What should we build tomorrow? Who can we serve in a different way? Because some, our developers build some of the most beautiful buildings, apartments, amenity spaces. And now we have to keep in mind, what if people are at home for extended periods of time? How can we enhance that experience even more? What can we do with those spaces that will make them feel more connected and stay at their communities of choice? So I think it is going to have an impact on our product as well as, how we communicate and allow the residents to communicate with each other. Now we have platforms that residents can create their own meet and greets, right? So it's an app specific to the community. So there are lots of things that are kind of taking place and they're being tested or piloted. But I think a lot of it, we need to look at our product.
Yes. I saw some people talking about moving gifts even, do you do the moving gift that can work with the size of a yoga mat, right? Because that's the space you can almost be guaranteed of, no matter if you have a studio or a 3-bedroom, you're going to have that. So I think that's super interesting. And Ian, you've talked a lot about the amenity spaces and apartment spaces as far as how you've picture them evolving too.
Yeah, I mean, I think amenity spaces are fascinating. Just, Tracie, over the last 30 years, you just think back at how much it's changed and shifted for how we use these common areas. And I think the only thing that is guaranteed is that it will change. I think, just over a little over a year ago, I would say the one of the hot amenity spaces was the co-working space and having a place to all come together. And then, overnight that pretty much goes away. And I've heard a lot about different amenity spaces being more, directed at, virtual reality and things like simulators and things where the amenity space literally might be a blank room where you can have that you'd be able to do something. Or another great idea that I was hearing a lot about is these movable walls where you can literally change your amenity spaces, and have that virtual bowling alley at night, and then switch it to a working space during the day. And just that flexibility, I think, is definitely going to be key, because the one thing we do know is that there is going to be change, and we don't necessarily know exactly what that will look like. Another question here for you, Tracie, is just and really just discussion point is, we always talk about the importance that, really someone like yourself in a mentor position, that role that you play in the people's lives of both your leasing agents, and then for all those people on site, the role that they play in the actual lives of these prospects. And you mentioned it earlier about, it's a stressful time moving, and curious on your thoughts on what that's like for leasing agents and how we're handling that.
So, yeah, we mentioned it just earlier that, the leads, let's talk about the leads. Our front line, they deal with the people first that are looking for homes. And technology, they shop online before they ever see us or talk to us. And we've really been talking about remembering that behind every lead, every ILS generated guest card, it's a person, right? Yeah. Sometimes we get so busy and we see that we have someone waiting, or we see an email, or we see a text, and that's someone, there's a person behind that text and that email and that chat that they're inquiring about a place to live. So for us, and for me, I want that person, when they talk to one of our team members, to feel welcome, to feel like we expected them, to call us and be ready to help them make that crucial decision of where they're going to live. So I think now more than ever in the last year, when someone needed to move, it's a difficult time to move. And think about it, just the logistics of people coming into your home to move your belongings, that before you wouldn't have thought about it at all. But now, do you wear a mask? Or have you been tested? There's just lots of things to consider. So, our on-site teams are the ones who are that touch point. And I think just if the prospect on the other end of the phone, email, they hear that genuine care, that we are essential workers.
Yes.
Right? We are essential to the people who rent apartment homes. So I think that's one of the big things right now, is just that they feel that they're really going to be cared for and helped in a sincere way.
Well, Tracie, I've worked with you for many years now, and one of the things that I've heard you say over and over, and I would love for it to truly take flight, is in the same vein as not using the word unit, but not using the word traffic. And what you just described is that these are human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And
no, I don't like that word.
No, I mean, and it's so cold, and it's so, just let's champion that for the industry, please.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, we talked about traffic is not fun. Whoever thought traffic is a good word? It's no fun.
Exactly. I think we can just get so wrapped up in especially from the management role. Everyone can get so wrapped up in the numbers and the leads and especially now as we step back and are less face to face with our prospects. It's important just to remember that these are people. This is their lives that we're working with here, and how important that is. So we're going to take another quick break here, and then we'll be right back.
Introducing Remote Lock Universal Access Control. Remote Lock lets you manage any lock, from smart locks to hardwired access control systems, securing every door from the main entrance to the rooftop patio. And you get to choose from the best top-of-the-line smart locks out there, from brands like Yale, Schlage, Kwikset, August, Mercury, and many more. Now you can configure and add access at the push of a button and set up customized schedules for each and every user, all within a matter of minutes. It even works with property management and booking software like Airbnb, Guesty, Entrata, RealPage, and more. With Remote Lock, you'll finally have a future-proof solution that controls all your properties around the world from a single, easy-to-use platform. Let Remote Lock be the last access control partner you'll ever need.
So Tracie, one of the questions that I thought of last night that I really am curious about for many, many people, and it's been touched on a little bit, but just to dive a little deeper into it, in your years in the industry, what have you seen change dramatically? And what are the things that you've seen stay the same? And maybe some of those should be staying the same, right? But yeah, what are the big changes you've seen, and what are the things you've seen stay the same?
What's changed the most is how we communicate with residents and prospects electronically, and from everything from emails to them paying their rent online to make an application online. So that has changed a lot since I started on site.
What were the 3-ply guest cards, or what was the for the ledger for the service requests? And
right, a lot of manual tickets. What hasn't changed is what we're asking on that information, right? We ask the same questions of a prospect. We walk apartments and we look for the same level of detail and caring for the home. So it's interesting, the way we do it and how we communicate it is digital, but we haven't necessarily changed what we ask for.
Yeah.
Right.
That's so true. So many times, Tracie, people say to me, and I know Ian gets it too, I'm sure you get it. Oh, maybe you have a troubled asset, or not. I don't want to say troubled. It just could use a few more leases, or you have a brand new construction lease up, and everybody says, oh, what's the newest outside the box thing that we can do? And sometimes the first step you need to think about is what is inside the box, and executing on that meticulously first before going outside the box. But I think those foundational best practices and root basics are super important to your point. Yeah, that we need to hang on to.
Yes,
absolutely. Yeah. I think one of the pieces too. I think as you look at all the different questions that kind of have stayed the same, and what I find too is that even though we've got, we're often now collecting a lot more of that information ahead of time. What I really find too is that it's that rapport, building in those questions and still having that dialogue of, we talked last week a little bit about, different bots and things that can really help, in terms of gathering information. But the second that somebody realizes that they're not talking to a person and want to be, it can be kind of frustrating too. So I think it's, understanding that we ask those questions too, not just for the answers, but for that rapport and really that conversation that takes things to a deeper discussion.
And how we're going to use it, right? Tracie, I'm sure in your training, it's not just about asking the questions at whatever point in the sales journey, but how are we using that information? Because when we use it for the benefit of our prospects, it's a good thing.
Right. It's a discovery process.
Yes.
And I think the questions, to Ian's point, they're to help us discover why is the prospect moving? Why is the resident calling? But it's not the only question, right? The question should lead to more questions.
Yes.
We should ask why. So yes, we have the famous guest card script that we should, that we've all been taught to follow, but it's not the only thing to talk to the resident about. They may be moving for a reason that we haven't thought of. So I think for us and those same old questions, it's don't stop at the same questions. Dig a little deeper. You may discover something that will let that prospect know it's the perfect place. Perfect place for them to live. And it wouldn't have come up if we didn't have more of a natural discovery process past the core questions.
Yes. And the core questions are what maybe your bot could answer or ask, but truly having that emotional intelligence to ask those layered on questions and really help somebody is what we get to do as people.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's the difference between a prospect feeling like they're being asked the same questions over and over, and you're just kind of standing in their way of being able to go and see an apartment and see the product, and that difference of them wanting to really be able to open up and have that dialogue and narrow down and find that perfect apartment home and feel like they're gaining from that entire conversation. So I know we're coming close on time here, so I wanted to ask one last question here that we want to really finish out every show with, because the podcast is this Leasing Highway, and we really are dedicated to those front lines. So curious for what would be your one piece of advice that you'd give to an industry professional that's just starting out?
So if we had a lot more 30 minutes, I could give them lots of advice. I've been doing it a long time. But, as I thought about this question, what I would say is that when you come into this industry, that you need to be prepared that this is not a job. This is not a job. This is a unique role that you play in people's lives. And you are a part of their decision to move. You're a part of their home. You see them on a regular basis, but also you're a part of a team. So this industry, you're going to have so many experiences, and it's more than a job. So expect every day to be different. And that's why I loved it from the get-go, right? Every day is different. Creativity is a must. So even though we have those standard questions, you always have to think outside the box. You have to be a creative, a problem solver. It's everything in one. So as far as welcome, if there's anyone watching it that's new, because you're in for a ride and the sky's the limit in our industry, you guys. You start on site and sales, learn everything you can. It will be an amazing journey. When you understand the framework of what multifamily has to offer, not just to residents, but to you as a professional, it really is incredible. And I tell people who interview with me, if they've never thought about it, watch out, because you'll be working in the second in property management, because it is It's one of the best. It's one of the hidden gems, I think, for careers. People don't even realize it's here.
So true. Tracie, thank you, thank you, thank you. I feel like that should be a mic drop moment, but this mic is massive. But thank you. I love all the comments that everybody's shared today, and just couldn't be more honored to have had you as our first guest and to know you. You are a gem in this industry, and anybody who hasn't met Tracie personally, be sure to introduce yourself, because she is phenomenal. And thank you again for today, Tracie.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I couldn't imagine a better first guest. So thank you so much. Really enjoyed having you. Did want to quickly give a quick announcement for next week for everyone who wants to tune into. We're going to have Gloria Peak, who's the Director of Revenue Management for Avanti Residential. Super excited to get a totally different perspective of the industry from her as well too. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Again, thank you, Tracie. It's been amazing, and we'll talk to you all next time.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.